Fellow viewers, welcome to another segment of our View on Cry Out TV. I am Southern Cameroon, your humble host. It is a pleasure to reconnect with our viewership who have relentlessly flooded our phone lines and email with words of support, information and questions about when we would be on air again. Our hiatus is a consequence of the complexity of investigations and the need to comb every single detail, connect the dots and deliver A1 information. We have on several occasions pinpointed some heartless individuals and groups who are getting financial windfalls from the ongoing war in Southern Cameroon. Today, we will discuss how some men in uniform have connived with con men to line their pockets and fatten their bank accounts. It is very unfortunate that the powers that be did not do enough to avert war in Cameroon. More unfortunate is the ever-rising death toll and worsening humanitarian crisis. Most unfortunate is that some of the people who are the reason why the country is a hellhole are striking it rich, while others are dying like flies. The evidence shows that many in the military top brass are involved in this unholy scheme. However, based on the information in our possession, we are making Commandant Bernard Mbutabala of Cameroon's military intelligence outfit and his partner in crime, the con man Jelam Dixon alias Colonel, the face of this Machiavellian scheme. These two are just as bad, if not worse, than the gangster pastors who have scammed Southern Cameroonians out of hefty sums of cash. We are not sure when Commandant Tabala's criminal behavior actually began. What is as certain as taxes and death is that, while on training as a Navy officer, he was convicted of conspiracy to defraud the United States of America as a result of a scheme to sell fictitious or fake US currency. Here are the facts. He was later deported to Cameroon. Shockingly, he succeeded to rejoin the Cameroonian Navy, thanks to his father, who was an officer in the army. The million-dollar question here is, how did he pass a background check, which is a critical step in joining the military? On top of that, who gave him the position in military intelligence and the accompanying clearances? If he could be charged and convicted of dealing with counterfeit dollars, how can he convince anybody that he is not flooding Cameroon and the African continent with counterfeit currency of various forms? We contacted this rogue officer who tried to lie and bully his way out of the facts. Listen to Commandant Bernard Mbutabala.
My name is Southern Cameroon. I don't like what is happening in our region. I know you are an Anglophone. I've investigated you, my brother, and that's why I'm calling you now. You are an investigator. I know you are in deep inside intelligence. And I know probably somebody must have told you that I will call you one day.
No.
You are in intelligence. You are a very smart guy. I know. Now, this is the problem. The killing is too much. And it is our perception that some within the government and the intelligence community do not want to do anything. Do you agree with me on that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Let me break it down this way. Because the people that want separation, they are using this struggle to make money, and innocent children are dying. While those in the military, do you agree with me on that? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Those in the military top ranking in the intelligence community are also making money because they give them bond, they give them a budget, and it is divided. You don't have to tell me because you are
I'm not really sure about that.
You don't have to tell me. Because maybe you are not a spokesman within you.
I'm telling you, I'm not sure about that because I'm working into it right now. So what is the situation? What do you need to know?
Okay, the first thing I need to know is why can the government not put these people that are dying like their own children and find a solution? That's first. Secondly,
I cannot speak for the government.
You cannot speak for the government, but do you have reasons why you cannot speak for the government? I'll give you my reasons why.
Yeah.
This is my perception. It's for you to tell me no, that is not the case. Now, we've had complaints while the separatists are here causing innocent souls to die. We also have complaints. I should just let you know that I am for the people. I investigate issues and I don't care who that person is, and I'll talk to that person. Meaning that I don't bring my things out without talking to the people involved. I don't do that.
Yes.
That's why I insist to talk to you. Now, this is the thing. I've had complaints that we have an Anglophone brother who has been profiting from this struggle. Meaning that other people come and point Anglophones that are making money in their businesses. And they're being set up in the sense that they make calls like they will support Amber. Because they are scared of what the Amber boys will do without them supporting. If for some reason they even support, not because they want it, because they want to save their face for kidnap, they end up being arrested. And they demand them millions. And each time your name keeps coming up, your elements keeps coming up.
Okay.
Yes, that's the reason of my call. I don't want to, and I'm happy that you're talking to me because I will not want to put information out there that I'm not too sure about.
Well, Jipon Remingono already did without any proofs. Okay, I think I cannot disclose what I do.
Okay, my brother. Sorry, I don't even know. You are the one telling me now. I don't even know about JP Remingomo, and you attest to me that
so
I'm talking to you not because of IESA, because sometimes you might talk to the person and you get a whole different story.
Look, listen.
Yes.
When you investigate and you have elements, you have proofs, material proofs. When I arrest people and take them to Yaoundé, they carry an investigation. If it's clear that you are not, you know how many people I've arrested and I've released? They don't talk about that. Okay? When I do there's a guy they said he killed a soldier in Bamenda and ran away. It was on the net. I arrested the guy, but after my investigation, the guy had never been in Bamenda.
Good.
Later, I released him, but it was all over the place that I've arrested people and I'm asking for money. Then where is the money going? What am I doing with the money? That's all bullshit. Okay, people don't have anything to say and they just get up and start talking a lot of noise.
This guy you arrested.
I cannot leave.
Right, and you released.
I cannot leave my office and go and arrest somebody for nothing. I must have elements, and then after verification, if the elements are concordant, then you go to the gendarmerie. If they are not, you are released. So the rest people can say what they want to say. You can't stop people from talking.
True. Now this guy that you just mentioned, was he released without him paying any dollar? Or no CFA? Was he released just like that? You are innocent. We're investigating.
He was released. He's a teacher. He's a teacher by profession in Southwest. He's a teacher by profession.
What's his name?
You can get in touch with him and he'll tell you. He will tell you.
What's his name?
I don't remember his name. I don't think those names.
Did he pay any money to your subordinates or? No.
No. Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
Thank you very much for giving me this information. Okay.
And you know how intelligence community works.
Yes.
We have information, and then we have to verify. Once the verification is done, it can take some time.
True.
1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, and then after, if we find you not guilty, we release you. As simple as that. So I don't want to call people's names, but I know people are going around saying, bullshit about my name, and so I don't have that's not my priority. That's not my priority. I have many other things to worry about. Okay? Now, yes.
Are you trying to tell me that there's never been any scenario or situation where, especially an Anglophone was arrested, he was staged, apparently, to be...
No, listen.
Yes.
Listen. Nobody is staged. If somebody is arrested, I don't want to call names, okay? I'm telling you, I don't want to call names.
I know a lot of people.
And I've been through a lot of investigations. I've carried people to Yaoundé, and they've been released later. So what do people want? After verification.
We have figures up to the tune of more than 300 million that different people...
That's fake. Please, that's fake.
No, not one person.
That's fake.
Not one person. I'm just telling you. I'm giving you...
No, please.
I'm giving you...
I'm going to a security meeting right
now. Okay, I have one last question for you. I have one last question for you, brother. Sometime around 2003 in the county of Essex, you were indicted and you plead guilty. What was that?
What? For what?
Here in the United States.
Oh.
Have you ever been here?
For being no, for what?
Have you ever been in the US?
My personal life, for what?
Pardon?
You're asking me a question about my job. No, I've never been in the US. Is that what you want?
No, you've been in the US. It's your personal life, but I'm telling you, I've been doing my investigation.
I went to the US in 1992. Where were you?
No. We are not talking about 1992. We are talking about a case in Essex County in 2003. I'm
telling you, I went to the US in 1992. Where were you? So don't be asking me.
I'm asking you about an indictment that you did plead guilty to, and you know about this indictment.
Please.
Can you tell me a little bit about it?
I'm doing nothing but my job. Okay, I'm doing nothing but my job. So, and I've never ever organized anybody who is convicted of being part of the wrong side. We have to send you in front. If you are not, we'll release you. Period.
We know.
That's all I can tell you.
We know the people that are snitches. We know the people that are snitches. We know the people that.
From right now.
We know.
Let me please.
Okay, can you tell me about the indictment in 2003 in New Jersey?
Thank you.
Now enter Jelam Dixon. This well-known con man has claimed that he's a changed man, now involved in legitimate business. Unfortunately for this short-sighted and greedy individual, he has left trails every time because of his assumptions that all his victims are idiots, or in street terms, mugus. He claimed that he had moved on from his criminal ways by establishing Carlos Hotel. Unknown to many, he used this as an opportunity to be a pimp, a blackmailer, and bully. He used this hotel to build his connections on all levels, indulging in pay-for-sex schemes involving high-ranking officials with young, innocent university students, some of whom were raped and molested but remained quiet because of his money and connections. The relationship between Tabala and Jelam is not new. Tabala has been serving as Jelam's devil's associate, inheriting the street title of Kota. In other words, Jelam held the head while Tabala did the cutting. What this means is that when Jelam had a victim, he would himself innocently play victim as well. Whereupon, he would call his Kota, who will proceed to arrest all of them, including Jelam Dixon. During this fake interrogation, Jelam will then reveal the real illegal deal, while his victims try to conceal the facts. At this point, Tabala's gang will threaten to expose the shady deal to newspapers and, of course, long prison terms. Meanwhile, letting the victim know Jelam has paid and has been released. This will then prompt their victims to do whatever it took to free themselves. Now, fast forward to the war and its ensuing chaos. Jelam used his Tabala connection to infiltrate both sides, the government and restoration forces. Both of these individuals, with low morals, carefully crafted their scheme. It was really simple. Make as much money as possible from both sides and then flee the country. Tabala recommended Jelam to the government through his boss, Colonel Joel Bamkoui, as a government spy. Bamkoui, who is so desperate to succeed in deriving a solution that would bring calm, thus pleasing his boss in Etudi, was willing to work with the same criminal he arrested more than a decade ago and was sent to prison in New Bell. When we inquired, this is what Bamkoui had to say.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes.
Sorry, Colonel, we got disconnected. So,
Yes, you know, we have a phone network here.
I know.
It's very important to call with the direct phone. If you don't have a phone, I have released your telephone. I can call you with my phone in my office.
No, it's okay. I can call direct. Now I'm calling direct.
No problem.
So, Colonel, let me tell you before I called, okay? I've been investigating you. I've received some good feedback, not all. So I must be very honest with you. And I'm happy with what I've received. I've been told there are times that you come to your prison cell in the middle of the night and you remove people that there is no justification for them to be in your cell. I've been told that. Now, let me go into how my investigation got to the point where you are involved. There is one of your elements, Colonel Tabala in Douala, and Commandant. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I thought he was a colonel. Okay. So this is what is happening now. In this Anglophone struggle, we have the separatists here in the diaspora that they have enticed the young guys to pick up weapons. And the young guys are fighting. Now, permit me say there is a reason for the Anglophones to fight. But some of the people in the diaspora are not being honest. It means that they raise money, they keep the money, and the boys are fighting, are dying. And that is a concern to me. Why? Because during this time of fighting, civilians are the ones that are suffering the most. And nobody cares about the civilians. Now, I stepped in to investigate the ills and why civilians are being hurt and who are those involved. And this is how my investigation is coming in. Now, in the side of the people in the US, I condemn them. So, it's not everybody that is calling from abroad that is actually has a problem. No, I'm reporting from the side of somebody doing investigative work. So if you are a secessionist, you are here in the US and you're doing wrong, I report, I investigate you, and I put it out there. The name of my media house is Cry Out Television. Now, about Tabala.
Cry Out Television.
Yes, Cry Out TV. So I talk ill about the government, and I also talk ill about those in the separatist side. Now, this is where I come in. Part of my investigation is this. Some of the civilians, especially businessmen, from the Anglophone region. I have names that there is this gang of Tabala and Dixon, the guy that has a hotel. There's a guy in Douala, he's in Douala now, but he used to have a hotel in Bomaka area. They call him Dixon. I'm sure you know him.
I know him very well. Why? They call him Colonel, yes.
Yes,
I know him.
they call him Colonel.
But I will tell you something. I don't know where I know Dixon.
No.
When I was working in Douala, I was as group commander in charge of gendarmerie in Douala town. I spent 8 years in Douala.
Oh.
You can ask people how I was working there. And then there was a problem between this man and junior brother of General Ivo, who was working in Chantier Naval.
Yes.
He was involved in one escroquerie, and I catch him. He was in Tico.
Yes.
And I sent him to prison.
Yes.
And after it, I don't know what happened. He went away or he ran away. In this way, he ran away, and it was the first time I met the man.
Yes, that is true.
And when I arrested him, I treat him very well, and I stand it, and every day, some day, 10 years today, after ago, I met him in Douala with, he said, Colonel, you don't know, Colonel, now you, how? He told me that he had problem, he was in prison, and then he make a coup with register of prison, gave him money, accompanied him to his compound, he gave them money, and let him go. He was not, he don't run.
Yes.
Now I understand more.
Yes.
I am in contact with him, I am in contact with all people.
Yes.
And sometimes this man, I saw that he's involved in this matter. Sometimes he wants to solve a problem, give me some information, tell me that he wants to go and negotiate with people to release it. Well, I get information coming from now, South, even in diaspora, even in Asia, everywhere in the world. I have information.
I know.
Let me tell you that I was in the United States and month of February. I met many of people in leaders. If you don't know, I met them. I discussed with them. They were surprised because they think that you want only to make war. No. We are all Cameroonians, but sometimes people don't understand what's going on exactly. I know that you are in the in diaspora. Sometimes don't know that country is going on.
But this is the thing.
I'm always in diaspora. I'm going to Europe. I'm going to United States. I'm going to China. I'm meeting many Cameroonians. I know that very long country that they don't have a good information about the situation. I'll tell you something. Me, I met many of my friends here in the United States, in FBI and Roosevelt. I have my son there. I am visiting all of my family there too. Even in Europe and everywhere. But I know what is going on. The problem is just many times I tell to them that no, you don't know exactly the reality of the thing. Because when sometimes you get information on social media, I like it too. Now, even me, we have this kind of problem.
Colonel.
I will give you my report. Yeah, continue, please.
Colonel, listen, I know, and I know you have.
I want you to continue, yes.
Okay. Now, I understand very well, and I understand how you interact with people, and that is the reason why it makes you unique in your position. Believe me, I have been investigating you for like 9 months. I have been looking at you and everything. Now, this is what is going on that I want you to understand. First, I understand every government have proxies, meaning that the government might need an indicator, a snitch. For example, somebody like Dixon, that you know very well his activities. And if he comes up to the government and say, I want to help the government because of what is happening in the Anglophone. Yes, the government will want to take somebody like that because they know, like a mafia, he should know some of those guys. It is understood.
He knows them because many of them is not Western. He tell me that he is from he knows many of them. We really think that he can help us.
Okay.
Only the man. We have many of them who interacting with us.
Okay, now, but what if somebody comes that he's trying to help the government at the same time using this shield of the government to enrich himself? What do you say about that?
No, it means that he's not serious. He's not serious. I'm very happy that you give me this kind of information. I will tell you something.
Yes.
One time,
Yes.
I got information about some activities in the Southwest against Sabara. I have transferred Sabara. I'm not hearing it. I have transferred him now from East Region. I will hear it.
Yes.
Because I know that there was sometimes some connection with many people. So here, people are thinking that he is in charge of taking money from Anglophone and so on. Bon, I tell people say that Sabara is preparing a coup d'etat to the government. He's working with American. He always accusation against Sabara.
No.
Me,
Let me tell you.
Ask Sabara, if one day Sabara took money and give it to me, no. You can know that when I was young, when I worked in Konkamba, I worked in Bafusam, I spent 8 nights in Islam. I can tell you that I don't want fraud. I want fraud in my life. Even here in army, they know that. Even one commandant of the brigade cannot take money and come give it to me. No. I think that I have a need which
let me give you the perception of what people think about you, so you understand perfectly well. And I'm happy that you are talking with me, because some other person will feel like, oh, this is a reporter, I don't need to talk to him. But it shows your intelligence that you are open and you're ready to talk. Let me tell you the perception. The perception is that tous les mafias, toutes les choses que Tabala fait, everything Tabala is doing with his gang, you are on top of the triangle. Meaning that,
yes.
I don't know,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person to tell you what I'm telling you right now.
No, I will tell you something. I will tell you, you know that I have a problem. Me, in my life, I spent 28 years in army. Never took my pen to punish people. I think that the good solution is to give, to make some civilization. And if I was passed, I can take some measure. This is why I decided to transfer Tabara to Douala, to Eastern Region.
Yes. Now, let me tell you another thing.
There was many against him.
I'll tell you the operation of the mafia, but let me tell you another thing that got me concerned. I'm told in your jail, you have military guys that you discipline them, like the guys in the north, those guys that killed that little girl in the north that the Americans even reported. I'm told they are under your custody. So you are a disciplinarian. I've been told that.
Yes.
I've been told that you surprise even those that work under you, because they do their back jobs by getting people, locking them up without your knowledge. So you go to your jail and you ask them what they are doing there, and if there is no report, you tell them, sort them ici, sort them au cellule. I've been told all these things about you. Let me tell you what Dixon and Tabala they do. And then I want to also ask you a question. Did the government of Cameroon look at the records, or do they look at the records of their military personnel before they take them in the military?
No, I will tell you something. Tabala he makes his study in the United States. I don't know where he's come from. I don't know. He was in the military academy in the United States. He spent 5 years there and he came here. I don't know Tabala. I met Tabala first time when I was in jail. I have a problem with my woman. I was in the War College. You know, when I came back 1 year,
my woman was coming out with one of his colleagues, and sometimes I surprised him in my house in military camp in Mopi. He began fighting, and then they broke bottle on my head, and I took my hand and I shoot on the leg, and then people will go and next time they
I can't hear you well. I can't hear you well. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Hello?
Yes. Okay. Good. I can hear you now.
Yes, I was in prison. They gave me 5 days of prison. I think that if I was a bad man, they have not given me 5 days because they know that I have a reason. I cannot be in my house, come and find my wife, people in my bed. When I want to arrest him, he broke the bottle on my head. And I react with my pistol and I broke his leg.
Oh,
I am the people who want to discipline.
Yes.
I will tell you something. You know what? I tell you something. I'm very happy. I don't know you, huh? I don't know you.
Yes.
I don't know who is talking with me.
Yes.
But I will tell you something. The problem of Cameroon. Problem of Tabala is a problem of education. I don't know where I came here and I found Tabala here in Senegal. You are transferred in Douala when the former minister was here. I don't know exactly. But I'm working with people who may give me. I don't have people in my family who is military or people in my tribe. I am a Tikar man.
Oh, you are from Tika?
Yes. No, you know that we don't have people in army.
Yes.
I will tell you something. Sometimes I have many recriminations about Tabala. But I will tell you something. Tabala is only one Anglophone people who are working in the mill. I cannot, this is why I support, I tell to my ministry, you know, there is only one Anglophone who is working like chief of regional antenne, and I cannot remove him. And here in my office, I have many of Anglophone who is working, but out of my office in my antenne, there was only Tabala. You know that when we are making a thing, it's very important to make planification, then to avoid people to think that there is injustice. You know that the problem of Anglophone in Cameroon
Yes.
is always that we don't have a class, we don't have rejected, we don't consider them. You know it.
Yes.
You know it.
Okay. Now.
When I'm working, I am always putting this kind of consideration when I want to take a decision.
Okay.
This is why you can always do so that. But when there are many accusations, I was taking from Douala and transfer him in another place.
Okay. Now let me ask you, what was the rank of Tabala's father in the military?
Well, when told me that his father was captain, I don't know exactly, but I don't know his father. I told me that his father was the captain. I don't know for others. I don't know about his life. So.
Okay. While Tabala was here in the military academy, Tabala was arrested in 2003 in New Jersey for 419 like Dixon money laundering. I have the record. Now, Tabala was actually sent back, but Cameroon being what it is, and with the help of his father, Tabala was, somehow got back in the military and is operating like a double agent, operating like a military officer and at the same time doing dirty jobs. Now, during the course of my investigation, he's back up because I talked to Tabala briefly. He was trying to refuse to talk to me, and I told him, let me tell you something. He said, Remingono has put something that I said, I'm different. I investigate and I talk to the person. I don't sabotage. I want to get truth and facts. I don't know you, you don't know me. But there is a problem in our country, and we have to make sure we pick out the cancer. Those that are the petrol, those that incite this problem to stay. And you are one of them. So this is how he operates. So just so you know, he has a criminal record here in the United States.
I have all the documentation. Now, his backup is that hackers, you know hackers, les gens qui fait le truc des computers.
Yes, the hackers. I don't have that.
Yes.
I don't have that.
So government, they take hackers and bring them into the government to solve problems. Yes. Government, they have bad elements like Dixon that the government might think that we might need this person. But the mistake they make is that once you sign that you're going to help the government, it means you're no more on the bad side. You are now on the team of the good side.
And the one with Iran. What is Iran? What is Iran? Je suis là, mon général. Je suis là, je suis pas mon général. Merci, mon général. Allô?
Hello?
Hello? It was General Ivo who was calling me. But I want to tell you something. Many people are trying to find me. I cannot occupy a phone like this. If you want to discuss with me, try to call me later where people don't call me and we discuss this. I don't understand.
Yes.
But I am very happy to know that there are people who can act like you. Because I want to discuss and convince you and tell you the exact problem about Anglophone issues. Huh?
Yes.
Because I know grounds, I know how people are reacting, I know what is going on exactly. You are talking about Dixon. The problem in the Anglophone society now is that you have many people like him who was the former bandit, the former people who now transform themselves in the general affairs, General Lambere, General Big, like this. It's like we don't want the result in Cameroon. We don't want the thing who is coming like Libya and so on. No, we cannot accept it. This is why you see that I'm very involved in this problem. Very involved against military. Very involved in discipline. Very involved. I know that the problem with this zone, if we, military, working in this zone, we can change our behavior too. Because sometimes there are people who are acting like they are, even here, which is why I am making some civilization to meet. I tell no, don't oppress people. Don't do so. Do your work without oppressing people.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And then strategically, I will tell you what is going on exactly. I will tell you why you cannot have a support of international community. Because why? It's a problem of interest. Americans don't want a disaster in the zone of Gulf of Guinea. You know it.
Yes.
They cannot accept that people can begin making things so. This is why it's one of the main reasons. They cannot accept that if this kind of thing occur here in Cameroon, it will occur in Nigeria too. You know it.
Yes.
They cannot accept that if they destabilize Cameroon, a country like Southern Africa, Chad, and Japan will be destabilized. And then we will have many refugees in part of the situation of Libya now. You know it.
Yes.
But there are many. I am discussing with them. I was there in the United States. I was in the capital. I met them. I know what they are thinking. But the problem is what they want that Libya leave power.
Yes.
I know that there is a problem.
That's the problem.
It's only from a problem. Yes. It's not the thing you are understanding and the phone people so. No. But I come to and so the problem of succession of head of state.
Yes.
We know it.
Okay, Colonel.
We are an African. We think that we have a chance to have a people like him. When we die, he will be replaced. Once that things change in peace in this country.
Yes. Colonel, my question is,
yes,
did the Minister of Defense initiate Dixon now as an indicator under the government, under Ministry of Defense, to help in this problem in the Anglophone region?
I will tell you something. When you are in problem, then if people tell you that I can help you, you are obliged to see what is doing.
True.
If it's possible, no problem. If it's not possible, I'm looking this one was presented to me by Tabara. He told me that this man knows many people in this region.
Okay. Yes.
But I can tell you, I arrested how my judges I also have people who was arrested here. He came here, I make my verification, arrested that he was not involved, and I released him.
Yes.
Labaran, you know Labaran in Chico?
Labaran. Yes, I know the guy Labaran because I am from that area.
Yes, ask him if he was not there in my face. I make investigation, and he goes out. If we ask him even give us money to or everything, so if you ask him, he will tell you.
I will call him because he will not want to talk to me because he is scared. But if you, with your permission, I will talk to him and see if he's going to talk to me because he knows me. I grew up with him. But if I call him and say...
For me, it's not a problem. I am very happy to know it. But I want to know when you will be in Cameroon. If you come in Cameroon, just to meet me.
You know, I cannot come because of people like Tabala that I investigate and report. So
no, Tabala. I am a chief. Even I'm going to United States, I will call you and meet you.
Yes. If you come, if you come to the US, I can buy you a ticket and we can meet. But I cannot come to that. I cannot come to Cameroon until Paul Biya is not in power. That is something.
I want to tell you something. Moderate your position. This is why the thing is not going. When we are making war, you guys discuss with people. This is here. This is everywhere. We can make war, but we can come to have a solution. When we sign a decision, it will be on the table.
Yes.
If I don't know people who are the leader of opposition, how we can do?
Well,
this is a real problem here in Cameroon. This is a real problem.
When the government is ready to talk to the people, I will tell you those that the government can talk to.
Your name is Sue. I don't know your name. Your name is Sue, please.
My name is Theodore Ngumba. I will send you.
Theodore Ngumba. No, Theodore Ngumba.
Yes.
Yes. I have your name. But I like you.
Yes.
I am like you because if I want to tell my thing, I tell you that you are like this. You are make a bad thing and those. So this is why they contest me.
Yes.
I'll tell you something. Even you put in the social media, there's a man who may call a Ringono. I don't know him. I'll tell you something. I was in Paris with General Oga, General Duquesne, was in seminar in the intelligence meeting with the American General and so on.
Yes.
And in social media, very right that there is a community who want to kill Oga, please go away. I saw in the social media and I took it, I showed them. They said that the intelligence party. I said you were very Terminator. What was in the thing I'm calling now Terminator. It's not the people and you. If you don't have a courage to call me like you cannot know where I am exactly.
Yes.
Huh?
That is the.
People have a color. But they don't have a color. Sometimes I don't know why do not have a problem with me. You don't have a problem with me because why? One time I have said the fact travel to United States. He mobilized people and he wants to come and make it his order. I tell him that like don't look at let it so. And he said, I tell you, ask me to give you money. I said, no, I cannot give you money. For me, it's a problem of conviction. I cannot give you money because you you cancel your manifestation. No, I cannot give you money. Oh, now, also is my name.
Colonel, let me tell you, in your position, you have people that will approach you to talk like we are talking. And you have people that will just do any communique just because they want social media upload. I don't do social media upload. I am focused of getting the truth. Before I called you today, I knew that we were going to talk. Now, this is my concern.
Who gave you my telephone number? I want to know who gave you my telephone number.
Colonel, when you do investigation, you know you...
I am a complete man. I don't hide my telephone number. No. But I want to know who gave you my telephone number. It's only what I want to know. No, it's not the problem. I don't hide my telephone. Many people know my telephone number. They always call me a night. Even if I was there, I am not telling my telephone number. It's the same telephone number.
Let me tell you what happens, what is going on, and why the government should think twice of some of the people that they use to give them information of the Anglophone struggle. It's not every person that has been a bandit that can help the government. Some of them are using that now to use it instead as a source of making money. This is what is happening in the Anglophone region. Dixon.
Yes.
Dixon knows a lot of Anglophones that are doing well in business. So this is what he does. His friend Tabala, who is also somebody that has done similar things like Dixon, but the good thing is that he did it in the United States and the government of Cameroon is not aware. This is what they do. They have elements, young guys, that we call, let's say for example, you are a businessman and you are an Anglophone. You are in Douala in Southwest. They will call you, hey, Master, Mr. Emil, how? You will say, fine. You say, we be Amber boys, and we know say you be Anglophone. You get to support this struggle. You know say if you not support this struggle, we go burn your house. We go take you. Now, Colonel, tell me, if na you be this Anglophone person, even if you no be one support that people, you go fear for your life.
Yes.
Now, what happens is, the Anglophone man go say, what you want make a, they go tell you, say, we go give you phone number that you will send mobile money. Now, the Anglophone go fear say, it's better for him to send money to these Amber boys, so they no get it. Yes. Now the Anglophone guy will send maybe 5,000. This is what Dixon and Tabala, their gang, they do. They will wait for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Then they will come and pick up this person for interrogation, that they have information with their informants that this person sponsors the Ambazonia fighters. Now with this person, they will take this person's phone, and this person will say, no, I'm not sponsoring Amber fighters. And then they will bring proof of that mobile money that that person sent for 50,000 or 100,000, that money came to them because they are the ones that got that money. And they will do it now, and they will make a motif. A lot of Anglophones.
You are the one who are informing me. I
Yes.
don't have this kind of information.
That's what I'm telling
I don't
you.
have this kind of information.
A lot of Anglophones have paid millions. The problem is, I cannot give you their names, but when I finish my reporting, what I expect the government to do is, especially someone like you who is a disciplinarian, any Anglophone, even though they will be scared, that has paid money to buy their head because of being set up by the gang of Tabala, they should come up. A lot of them will not come up. But these guys have
I am ready to receive them. I'm ready to receive them and to solve this solution. Because I don't want fraud. I have banned fraud in my life.
Yes.
They know it. I don't want fraud. The reform of Africa and the reform of Cameroon is a form of fraud. This is why this country is not going well.
Yes.
You know it.
Yes.
For me, I cannot accept to give me things like this if I don't have people on before me to tell that this are taking me this morning. I'm punishing.
So this is what is happening. Some of them, if they pay on time, they will release them. They release some of them in the night. Some of them, Tabala, if there are people that Tabala knows that they know people, they have connections, then Tabala will transport them to your jail. When he brings them to your jail, then sometimes you release them without them paying any dollar, any dime. And sometimes the family will go and see Tabala and will give Tabala money, and then maybe Tabala can turn around and say they have investigated that person is innocent.
No, I will tell you something. I will tell you too. Huh?
Yes.
I can give you the name of people that are here. Before this crisis began.
Yes.
I know one man, his name is Wati, they call him Wati. Tabala brought one man here and came with him here and tell me that the man was standing with Ayabacho in the United States. He was the traditional dress of the Northwest region, and Ayabacho was, and he told me that this man is sponsoring terrorism. So I tell him that, are you sure? He told me, yes. He was founding it in the United States, he gave money, he gave so and so and so and so and so and so. Now, I tell him to continue the investigation. And after it, he told me that, he have discovered that the man is a metaman like him. And he don't want to have a problem with his family. I tell that, you are a man who brings a man. If you have a reason to the reason, for me, there is no problem.
Okay.
You are a man who have element against him. I cannot invent element against him. If I don't have element, he will bring people and tell that, no, I have verified that this person don't have big problem. How I can tell that he have problem?
Okay.
Because I don't have element.
Let me tell you about this guy. This guy that Tabala brought to you has done business, the mafia business like Dixon, and he did not give money to all the people that are involved. So what they do, they contact Dixon, and then Dixon will use Tabala. That is why they got that guy, not because that guy is sponsoring terrorism.
If he is one person inside my office, no.
So when Tabala
and he brought him back.
When Tabala come to
and
take,
now I have seen that he began his friend.
Yes, when Tabala come back to get this guy, it is because this guy has settled, not because they are from the same village. So that gang is using your name as if you are part of what is going on.
But I will tell you something. The problem between him and Dixon, I am not in Douala. The thing we are doing, I will tell you something. Sometimes Dixon was calling me. I send, sometimes Dixon asked me, Colonel, I don't have money or fuel. I get him money. I send him money for fuel. I said, well, I want to go to visit my brother in Wa. I gave him money. We are killing many people of my, there are a battle between Fulani and the people of my village. I have for him. I give him 1 million to go there. He has not given me money one time. This is how I'm trying to function. I don't know.
Precisely.
I will say I will meet you there in Houston. I can keep time in Houston.
Okay, no problem. Anytime you come, just let me know and I will receive you.
When I am in the United States, I'm always in Austin, in Atlanta, or in Washington, or in how I call it, in San Francisco.
Okay, Colonel, let me let you go. I know you're busy. We'll talk again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Again.
It is nothing new in the world of spying to recruit criminals who have street connections. While it is true that Jelam has been running the streets, he is a two-headed snake. Most governments will hire the best hackers regardless of background because of their ability. The new amber or dirty money scheme that Tabala and Jelam have implemented is as follows. Jelam will use his street knowledge and connections to identify wealthy and successful Anglophones, some of which are acquaintances. His gang will then proceed to call this individual, asking for support by claiming to be Amber Boys. These calls come with threats of kidnapping or outright death for the victim and family members if they refuse to comply. The victims are provided with a mobile money number to be used to send the money. Most people comply out of fear, not necessarily because they support the cause. Once they cough up any money, Tabala and his elements will then proceed to make an arrest and confront the victim with the mobile money transfer as evidence. The charges being that they support Amber Boys and by extension terrorists. The victims are then given two options: pay or be transferred to Colonel Bamqui's cell, which is a path to Kondengi prison. Once again, the victims are demanded to pay anywhere between 5 million to 30 million CFA francs, depending on how wealthy they are. Also, the physical and emotional torture inflicted on them by the Tabala gang forces them to comply if they have the money or can come up with a reasonable amount to secure their release. Their victims include people from all backgrounds, anywhere from business people, civil servants, judges, and even Jelam's fellow con men. This nefarious group even went to the extent of involving the most popular pastor in Buea. He was framed with fictitious charges of human trafficking and for being a supporter of the revolution by providing material and financial support for Amber Boys. He was arrested and tortured to the extent of defecating on himself. We will withhold his name for now, just like we would for the long list of victims to spare them the embarrassment. We know how the security apparatus operates. If we release these names, the devil soldiers will proceed to arrest them, torture them, and force them to counter our facts. To conclude, many are those on both sides who want to prolong the war for two reasons. They will stop making easy money and their evil deeds will come to light. To the Cameroonian military, know this: some of your officers are directly and indirectly supporting the war because it is a cash cow for them. Many of the high-ranking officers are incompetent because they never deserved to integrate the military and therefore never had patriotic values. Edgar Alain Mebengu, the former Minister of Defense, is a certified thief and is today languishing behind bars. Imagine the networks that exist in the military that are yet to be exposed. Also, the facts are now showing that Anglophones are the most wicked towards their own brothers, especially when they are in a position of power. By no means are we indicting all soldiers or Anglophones, but the message is loud and clear. For the country to be revamped, some heads must roll. Otherwise, the country will continue to sink and the poor will bear the brunt. It is unimaginable, but true that those in power are sacrificing the weak and the poor because self-centered motives. We have also concluded that Colonel Joel Bamkui at this time is not involved in this scheme, but his name is being used by some of his trusted subordinates. To the Agama lizard named Jelam Dixon, you have so far been lucky to convince a desperate regime to hire the services of the devil in person. You can argue that governments have historically hired criminals to work for them. What you cannot justify is the blood you have spilled. While we cannot authoritatively state how much Jelam Dixon and Commandant Butabala have harvested from this vicious cycle, we know for a fact, putting figures together, that they have so far made over 250 million CFA francs. Jelam Dixon is quick to go on social media and cry about his village and its dwellers being systematically destroyed. Unknown to these victims is that Jelam is the architect of their pain and suffering. Jelam Dixon, you are reputed for making threats. We expect you, in true gangman style, to counter our investigation. Rest assured that you cannot and will never be able to bully or threaten my person. You know me and know the extent I can escalate this to. And to those temple servants of yours who will hurriedly come to attack my person, and advise them well not to make such a costly mistake. Game on. We will continue to be the voice of the voiceless. Thank you for your time and stay tuned for more.